We're flying around the Da Nang area, getting ready to make a landing at Da Nang East. Everybody that flew into Da Nang during the war will remember this approach. That's over near the Red Beach area. This is one of the fishing villages down below China Beach. Here's part of Da Nang Air Base. This is out in Dog Patch Village. Now here's where the 1st Marine Aircraft Wing's headquarters were in Da Nang. Mac V Da Nang was down in this area also back then. This is in one of the officers' areas. This is HMM Squadron 361's area. And this is their flight line. These are scenes of the pilots' living areas here at Da Nang. There's the 361 logo there. They had those tigers painted on the back of every UH-34 helicopter that they flew. I remember those tigers well. They used to be billeted right next to us on the flight line at Chu Lai. I was in 263. We used to always see them flying out, and the tiger would be the last thing you saw when they took off. .361 was stationed here at Da Nang for quite a while, and then they went down to Kee Haw, down to the air base right outside of Chu Lai. These are aerial scenes going from Da Nang to Chu Lai. This is an outpost up above Da Nang. This is right at Marble Mountain. That's one of the hangars there. And more of the living areas. You can see the control tower in the background there. There's one of the hooch maids here at Marble Mountain. This is the river that separated the China Beach area, where the in-country R&R Center was, and the hospital from Marble Mountain. Actually, the river was further on the other side. It separated the entire Marble Mountain area from Danang. These are scenes out near the hospital area on the perimeter of Marble Mountain. You can see the hospital over there in the background. That's a nice shot of a 34 flying over Danang. You can see a bombed out bridge down there. It's just a little bit north of Danang here. Now this is up in the imperial city of Wei. This helicopter's flying to Fubai. You can see scenes of the Citadel area down there. And that's the Perfume River directly below us. That's one of the biggest churches in Wei down there, and there's a big university at Wei. It still stands today. Back at Marble Mountain, right on China Beach. Some of the guys in their hooch here. This is the officers club up at Marble Mountain. Now we're out in Danang City once again. There's one of those tech rep companies, Philco Ford. They had an office here in Danang. This is more of the officers club area. There were many bars out here in Danang and many nightclubs out in the main part of the city. I remember going to several of them back in '67 when I was in Danang City. I even went out there at night to some of those places. It was kind of wild going out there. You see some more of the old buildings here in the city. A lot of this area still looks the same today, except all the American bases are gone. But the city itself looks about the same as it did back then. back at Marble Mountain. Those were all the different pilots from 361 there. There's a 34 that's getting a new engine put in. More scenes in the air up north of Da Nang in the mountains. It was really cool up here in the mountain areas when I was flying with 263. We landed up here once. Couldn't believe the difference in temperature, and the air was really clear up here. Now we're right in a cockpit of a 34. These are rare scenes. This looks like it might be one of the runways outside of Quang Tri. I'm not sure. But that looked familiar. It might have been that small runway on the other side of Khe Sanh. That's the 26 Marine area up on the other side of the flight line at Phu-Bai. Phu-Bai was probably 60 or 70 miles north of Da Nang. Now this is a resupply mission to one of these hilltop outposts. many fire bases in these hills above Da Nang and north, up above Phu Bai and everywhere. This place was just dotted with them. I remember one fire base in particular that had its own landing pad. It had a great big wooden deck built on top of it. That was at Nui Loc Son. That was over in the Kwe Son Basin on the other side of Da Nang. I always remembered flying in there. These other places, we flew into them too, but they just had a dirt landing zone. But to have a big platform on top of a mountainside was really something. I think everybody that ever flew into Loc Son remembers that place. Here's an old 37 coming in for a landing. They phased these out in late 66 and early 67. They used to fly out of Da Nang a lot. When they brought all those 53s to Vietnam, they phased these out, but these are 37s in action. These are very rare movies of 37s because you just don't see them, and those of us that were in Vietnam in the early days remember that. This is after a rocket attack. This is up at Marble Mountain. Look at all the shrapnel holes in the hooches. Those are helicopter holes in the sides of the ship there. Now this is the hospital area here at Da Nang. There you can see a plane taxiing down the runway at Da Nang East there. More of the areas that were rocketed here. There's the base chapel. These rockets used to come into Da Nang quite a bit, and they always used to create a lot of devastation. But this was a massive rocket and mortar attack here. There you can see some pieces of mortar rounds there, it looks like. There's the hangars for Da Nang East in the background there. More shrapnel damage here. These are more scenes of the living areas up here at Marble Mountain. And now we're at Keehaw, the MAG-36 Air Base down at Chu Lai. You can see a sky crane bringing in a wrecked helicopter. There's the South China Sea. Look at all the hooches overlooking the sea there. He's going to land here at the helipad. This is during the winter monsoon. Look at all the mud there. This is up in the officers' country, up on the hill up above the air base at Keehaw. These are some of the officers' hooches here. That's the 361 area. These guys used to fly north and south out of Chu Lai. They'd fly down to Quang Nai City, and then they'd fly up into the Da Nang area. There was a Christmas tree in that hooch. So this is taken around Christmas time. There you can see the sign for the Officers Club and for the chapel, holy water and fire water. That's a nice shot of the area. There's the Rifle Company 1st Platoon area there on the right, and there's the village over the hill there. There's a guy taking home movies. That's a private shower up here on the hill. These are all the pilots from 361. There's one of the old brooms that they used to sweep out the hooches with. They used to buy those in the village. And this is the area up near the shower. Now we're on the flight line at Da Nang East. This is the fixed-wing aircraft area here. You can see one of the pilots in his cockpit here. Look at the hangars there in the background. That's his control panel. It looks like one of those video games of today. Now he's high over Da Nang, going out to fly a mission. These are the mountains up above Da Nang. And that's what it looks like in the cockpit as he's flying over. Look at that screen there. There's his wingman.
Am I asking too much for you to stick around?
These pilots that flew these fixed-wing aircraft, a lot of them were helicopter pilots on previous tours. They were dual qualified and they could fly both fixed-wing and rotary aircraft. These are some great close-up scenes in the different cockpits of these wingmen. These are scenes flying around Japan right now also. There's Mount Fuji. That's a great scene as they fly past it. A lot of different outfits used to make courier runs from Vietnam to Japan and Okinawa. Used to be a F-4 leave at Sugi Air Base 3 days a week for Danang. They called it Peter Rabbit. He was the courier run out of Atsugi to Mac V Danang. I remember when that plane used to Danang all the time. Then I was at Atsugi one time and I saw him take off from that end. But these guys have flown up to Japan and then they'll turn around and fly back to Vietnam a couple of days.
What a day for a daydream. What a day for a daydreaming boy. And I'm lost in a daydream, dreaming about my bundle of joy. And even if time really on my side, it's one of those days for taking a walk outside. I'm blowing the day to take a walk in the sun and follow my face on somebody's new mode lawn. I've been having a sweet dream.
There you can see him making a sharp turn there, like a 360-degree turn. We'll see this plane lower his gear, getting ready to land. We're back on the ground here in Vietnam once again. Now we're down at Bien Hoa Air Base. This is in the southern part of Vietnam, down near Saigon. The Marine Corps moved this unit down here. This was later on in the war, and a lot of Marine units were scattered around, and these guys were sent down to Bien Hoa Air Base to fly missions down here. These are some of the double-deck hooches here at Bien Hoa. These are scenes on the flight line here at Bien Hoa. If you look close, you'll see how these aircraft were armed. Now we're going on a mission. We see many types of vintage Navy, Marine Corps, and South Vietnamese aircraft on the flight line here at Bien Hoa. More scenes on the flight line here at Benoit. And this is the operations area. Now we're going to Hong Kong on R&R. Everybody that served 13 months in Vietnam got at least one R&R, rest and recuperation. And these guys are going to Hong Kong on theirs. These are scenes taken in and around Hong Kong. After their 5-day R&R was over here in Hong Kong, it was back to Benoit Air Base for these guys. They had to resume their tour in Vietnam.